Okay, so I have a massive stack of notes on my desk today, and we are diving straight into a conflict that happened 2,000 years ago, but feels just surprisingly modern.
It really does.
We're looking at Matthew chapter 12, verses 1 through 21. And on the surface, this is a story about snacking on the Sabbath.
Right, and a withered hand. But when you really dig in, it's this collision between rigid systems and, well, basic human needs.
And it really gets at the question of what happens when our rules that are supposed to be good, end up hurting people.
And in this text, that tension triggers a whole theological crisis it leads to a plot to kill Jesus. It's that serious.
So let's set the scene. It's the Sabbath. Jesus and his disciples are walking through a grain field. They're hungry.
Right.
So they start plucking heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands and eating. Seems pretty harmless.
To us, yeah. A casual snack. But for the Pharisees who are watching, this was a major offense.
They go nuclear. Why? What was the big deal?
Well, to them, it wasn't snacking, it was harvesting. The oral law had, I think, 39 categories of forbidden work on the Sabbath.
And that was one of them.
Reaping and threshing, absolutely. By plucking and rubbing the grain, the disciples were technically processing food. They were working.
So they accuse them of breaking the law. And Jesus doesn't apologize. Instead, he counters with this really specific legal precedent about King David.
Which is such a brilliant move. He brings up the time David was on the run, starving, and he went into the house of God and ate the
bread of the present.
Exactly, the consecrated bread. Only priests could eat that. By the letter of the law, what David did was a serious offense.
But he's never condemned for it in Scripture. And Jesus is using that to make a point, right? That when human life is at stake, the ritual law has to take a backseat.
He's setting up a hierarchy of values. He even points out that priests work in the temple on the Sabbath and they're guiltless because serving God overrides the Sabbath rule.
And then he just drops the hammer. He says, something greater than the temple is here.
What a claim. He's basically saying, I am the new reference point. Which gets to the why. Why were the Pharisees so incredibly rigid about this?
It seems so excessive over a few heads of grain. But our sources talk about this concept of reference points and the trauma of the exile.
You have to remember the historical anxiety. The Jewish people had been conquered, exiled. They'd lost their land, their king, their temple. The one thing that kept them distinct from the nations around them was the law.
It was like the load-bearing wall of their identity.
A perfect analogy. They felt if you pulled out just one brick-like relaxing a Sabbath rule, the whole house would just collapse.
Yeah.
They weren't just being mean, they were terrified.
So they turned the Sabbath, which was meant as a gift of rest, into an idol.
Exactly. They were protecting the system, not the people the system was for. Jesus quotes the prophet Hosea here, I desire mercy and not sacrifice.
And he puts that into practice immediately. The scene shifts to the synagogue. There's a man with a withered hand and the Pharisees try to trap him.
They ask, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? They want to force him to choose between the law and simple compassion.
But he just flips the script with this sheep argument. He asks them, if one of your sheep falls into a pit on the Sabbath, what do you do?
You lift it out.
Yeah.
Of course you do. It's a financial asset. You don't let your property die in a ditch.
Right. So Jesus' logic is, if you work on the Sabbath to save an animal for your own wallet, how much more is a human being worth? How much more lawful is it to do good and restore a person?
He just completely exposes their hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And the reaction is chilling. He heals the man, and the text says they went out and conspired to destroy him.
And that violence is such a stark contrast to Jesus' response.
Yeah.
He doesn't fight back, he just withdraws.
And Matthew connects this to Isaiah's prophecy about the bruised reed and the smoldering wick.
I love that imagery so much. A reed, if it gets bruised or cracked, it can't make music anymore. It's useless. You just snap it and throw it away.
And a smoldering wick. That's a lamp that's out of oil, just smoking up the room. You'd normally just pinch it out.
These are metaphors for people, aren't they? People who are broken or useless to society or just barely hanging on.
And the world snaps them or snuffs them out. But the prophecy says Jesus won't do that. He handles the damaged things with gentleness until he brings justice to victory.
It just completely reframes the idea of power. The Pharisees used power to judge and exclude. Jesus uses his to heal.
And that brings it all back to you, listening now. We might not be Pharisees, but we all have our own reference points, traditions, politics, personal standards that we treat as untouchable.
The danger is when those standards become more important than the people right in front of us. If our rules stop us from showing mercy, we've missed the whole point.
So the question to leave you with is this: are you operating out of a pressure to perform and protect your identity? Or are you operating from a place of mercy?
And if you happen to encounter a bruised reed this week, maybe even in your own mirror, remember that the ultimate authority isn't looking to snap it, but to restore it. Thanks for diving deep with us.